Good morning. So I'm going to be talking about your chalice this morning. This is probably one of the most beautiful principles to read about in the teaching, and then to actually experience and recognizing your own chalice, and then experiencing the power that a chalice has. Anyway, I've really had a good time in putting together the talk today, and I hope that you enjoy it. So let me give you a little history. We're told that throughout the centuries, the chalice within the Ageless Wisdom teaching has been called by different names. And I would suggest you make a list of these names so when you read through the teaching, and not just Agni Yoga, but other teachings as well, you're going to see this terminology. And when you recognize these words, then you'll know we're talking about the chalice. So, of course, the word chalice, we'll start with that. And then the lotus. Those are the two common terms that we're most familiar with. But then also treasury. Treasury, the word treasury is also referencing the chalice. The temple of Solomon, sanctuary, causal body, the seat of grace. And there are others, but these are the key ones. For those who can see, we could call them clairvoyants, or people who have that developed vision that they can see beyond the physical. The chalice is a reality for them because they can see it. Even a psychologist, even though a psychologist may not necessarily know about the chalice, it is through the recognition of the psyche of an individual and conversations with that individual and discussions and so forth. They begin to learn more and more obscure things about the psyche of that individual. They learn from soul-to-soul contact, even though it's unconscious. Soul-to-soul contact. So if you've ever engaged with a really spiritual and advanced psychologist, and you wonder, how do they know these things? It comes from that soul-to-soul connection and like a transference of information. It's very cool. So let me describe these 7 terms, or define them. So the chalice, this is going beyond the definition of chalice, lotus, Temple of Solomon, and so forth, but kind of a subtle definition. So the chalice, our chalice, your chalice, contains the life essence. That's all you need to know. It contains your life essence, the essence of your spirit. Lotus. I love the term lotus. It's so beautiful. It has such a beautiful image that we can't help but think, of what a lotus is and what my lotus looks like. Maybe it's blue, maybe it's pink, maybe it's white, maybe it's multicolored. Anyway, a lotus is a growing and unfolding center with 12 petals in specific colors. And these petals are like fiery flames. Imagine being able to see this psychically. Treasure is another term. The treasury is a container of all past victories, achievements, and heroic works. It's full of ideas, wisdom, and beauty collected throughout the ages. That's treasury. So now you're getting an idea that what your chalice is made of, but not just your own. And so within the chalice is a beautiful treasury. The temple is part of the chalice, is part of the lotus. And it is where the jewel dwells. So the temple within the lotus, within the chalice, is where the jewel dwells. The fifth term is the Temple of Solomon. I find this quite amazing and insightful. And it can almost be a keynote if you're a meditator and you like to meditate on keynotes, this is one to meditate on. The Temple of Solomon is built on the archetypes of higher planes. So this means your lotus, the phrase that we're most familiar with, that your lotus is built on the archetype of higher planes. When I listen to people degrade themselves, it's so painful because they have no idea about this magnificence, this beauty of their lotus, of their chalice. If they did, they would never speak about themselves in such a negative, derogatory manner. So think about this. If you're a parent or grandparent and your child is depressed or is being bullied or abused by their little friends, talk to them about their lotus and how beautiful it is. And then there is this sanctuary, another term, the sixth term, where people enter for transformation, elevation, and contact with the jewel. So this is why we emphasize meditation as such an important part of our daily discipline. It is where we enter, our consciousness enters for transformation, elevation, and contact with the jewel. The seventh is the causal body. This is a little bit more complicated, but you can learn more about this causal body by studying the teachings. The causal body is that which carries with it the physical, emotional, and mental permanent atoms. This is the causal body, and there's been images and diagrams created for us to have a better perception. It is in these permanent atoms where we find the recordings which determine our future incarnations. So imagine that you have a person that you're dialoguing with, and I'm thinking now in terms of a younger person. Older people, Anyway, but older people are so old and so set in their ways and so crystallized, that it's really hard to reach them. It's almost impossible to teach them because, well, I won't go into why, but so I'm kind of focusing on the young people here today. When they talk so negatively about themselves, I'm not worth this, I'm not worthy of that, I can't do that, I don't have any talents. Talk to them about how they are thinking now of what they're doing about their future incarnation. They're damaging their future incarnations because if this is a repetitive thought that they have, it's going in those permanent atoms. So when they come into their next incarnation, they're going to come in thinking they're worthless human beings, that they're not worth anything. And people who think that way are already lost before their life has begun. So the parents are going to have a really difficult time, a challenge, how to build confidence in these little ones. So think about this. Think about yourself. Even if you're old, it's okay. Think about, okay, if I'm thinking so poorly about myself, that I don't have talents, I don't have this, I don't have that, just think you're creating a record for your next incarnation that will be built into your consciousness when you were born. So just stop it. Right now, stop it. And the 8th point is the seat of grace. I really love this phrase, the seat of grace. Our savings account, which helps us in dire need. It's oftentimes the seat of grace that saves your life. Think of the times when you knew you were headed toward the end of your life by an accident, a car coming towards you that was going to have a front-end accident, and all of a sudden you go by. And nothing has changed in your life. You're alive. I can think of so many stories that people have told me about these extraordinary experiences where they should have died, but nothing happened and they lived. That's the seat of grace, the treasury. Now, the teaching about the chalice comes from the Atlantean adepts. So this is not a modern day concept, okay? We're told the teaching about the chalice comes from the Atlantean adepts. Before the submergence of Atlantis, see, this is the history. Before the submergence of Atlantis, the adepts took this teaching to India and then to the Himalayas. Atlantean adepts, before the submergence of Atlanta, took this teaching to India and then to the Himalayas. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of Himalaya, Himalayan mountains. Either way, the pronunciation is correct, but not the way I was doing it. So it's the Himalayas, okay? So the teachers of humanity at first gave us very little information about the chalice, but they used symbols. They hinted about the chalice in instructions to their disciples. Now we can learn about the mystery of the chalice, most especially in the teachings of Agni Yoga. The teaching says that there is a mechanism in the higher mental plane in every human being that registers all that happens to us and around us that is related to all that is good. That this is the chalice. All real wisdom and knowledge are accumulated in the chalice. Great memories from past lives are accumulated there. See, so this is why we never want to speak derogatorily about ourselves or our children or our aunts and uncles or our friends or even our enemies that have tried to destroy us, because they too have a chalice, memories of past lives. The chalice also contains some, and this is so exciting to know, it also contains some information communicated from space into these petals of your lotus and into the jewel, the treasury in your chalice. So the chalice is found on the mental plane of consciousness. The mental plane has 7 subplanes, and it looks like a cloud around your head and body, particularly initially before it is well organized. But gradually, as your consciousness unfolds and your experiences become richer, now this mental plane begins to organize itself. And 7 colors appear, 1 for each plane. 7 colors and 7 notes. Eventually, a point of light starts to appear on the higher subplanes of your mental sphere. And the development of the mental plane continues, and one day, finally one day, there's going to be a faint outline of your chalice. Now centuries pass. You see how long it takes to build. The chalice becomes clearer and clearer. This is why we are told, work on yourself. Don't worry about other people. Worrying about other people means that you're so critical of other people. Why aren't they doing this? Why are they behaving that way? Don't worry about it. Concern yourself with your own potential, your own beauty. Because as this chalice comes into formation, now you are becoming a radiant human soul. And your radiance, as that light increases, you become more and more increasingly radiant, and you'll take that radiance to those that you were earlier criticizing, and now that radiance will begin to change the rhythm in that person's thinking and can potentially activate a resonance in their lotus. One of those petals will respond to your petals, and there'll be a resonance going on, and you'll learn how to see that person in a very different light through resonance. So centuries pass, the chalice becomes clearer and clearer with the rare beauty of fiery colors and the radiations of 12 streams of energy. Now more centuries pass, and the time comes when the dweller in the chalice, the jewel, is released, and now it passes on to cosmic evolution. This is what's going on with you, or not. Work on yourselves. So within our chalice, our temple, there are permanent records. Records that are like the book of God, in which everything is registered. Our whole life is primarily conditioned by the contents of the seeds of the chalice. Not only do the physical, emotional, and mental bodies grow from these seeds, but also their future qualities. See, their future qualities. This is why we work on ourselves. In Agni Yoga, I talk about this so often because when I first read about it, it just really hit me like a ton of bricks. self-perfectionment. This is one of the disciplines in Agni Yoga to improve yourself. Because the mental bodies, physical, emotional, mental bodies grow from these seeds. But also their future qualities, their potential, the possibilities for development are determined by the seeds of your chalice. You know, there's people that say, I am who I am. I don't have to change. Take me as I am. Look at what they're losing out on by thinking they're already perfect. When I think about how powerful Mother Nature is and how vulnerable we are to Mother Nature, we know we are not yet perfect human beings. So these seeds, I used the term a few minutes ago, permanent atoms. So these seeds are also known as permanent atoms. We have 6 seeds. 1 physical, 1 astral, 2 mental, 1 Buddhic, and 1 Atmic. All of our experiences on these levels or planes are registered. All of our experiences are registered in these seeds or atoms, whether we are conscious or unconscious of the impressions. It's like one day you meet somebody and you have this feeling, gosh, you know, I feel like I know you somehow, somewhere. No, you've never seen me. You know, I've been in India for all my life, and this is the first time I've ever come to this location, or you don't know me. Yeah, that's not true. See, it's the recordings in our chalice, and that when you meet this someone that you've never ever seen before, and there's a resonance taking place between the two of you, it's because something's been activated in one of the petals in your lotus to help you recognize that individual. And when you recognize that individual, whether you're in love or in hate with that person, pay attention, because you have something to do together. The seeds furnish us with whatever we have put into them in the past, plus current experiences. All that we have been in the past is in those seeds. And from those seeds will grow our future. The past conditions the future. The past conditions the future. Now, do you understand why? So we could say that our past, our future, and our present is in these seeds. So the chalice is formed of 12 different fiery petals of energy, like the petals of a rose. 3 of these petals form the core of the chalice. Most people think, you know, they've studied about the chalice, or the lotus, think there are only 9. But there are actually 12. 3 of these 12 petals form the core of the chalice. Now, in the unawakened person, the chalice is practically non-existent. The outline is there. The archetype is there because the solar angel is there holding it. The transpersonal self is there holding it for you. Even if you're unawakened, But as the person progresses on the path and they begin to develop what? Their knowledge, they increase their loving nature, their sacrificial nature, to a degree that now a small bud appears. It slowly grows and expands and takes the form of a lotus. In this lotus are accumulated the real treasures of the person. All the achievements of the centuries, the essence of your love, true knowledge, and service are accumulated in your lotus. The Master Morya instructed, of course, the treasury of the spirit is the chalice. See, the treasury of your spirit is a chalice, he says, and that treasury guards matter because the powerful impulse of sacred fire is laid in it. He also said that from the chalice issues all the creative laws, and in the chalice are gathered all cosmic manifestations. So are you hearing what the Master is saying here? He is saying all creative laws issue from the chalice and are gathered from all cosmic manifestation. So when we think of the phrase oneness, think of your oneness is made of all cosmic manifestations. So in essence, he is telling us that it is through our chalice that we are connected to the universe and to the creative laws of the universe. And it is from this chalice we can draw what we need when our consciousness is of the same vibration and rhythm. I think of the experiences I've had with great people. And when I'm around them, I can do things I could never do without them. And I'd always wondered, why is that? Because the chalices communicate with one another through sound and energy. So if you're around a person greater than yourself who has a more developed chalice than your own, let's say, or these petals are more fully developed and unfolded, when you are around such a person, it's like, if you can use your imagination a little bit, it's like the petals in your lotus come alert, awake, because they're responding to the resonance of the light, all these 7 colors and sounds of this great person. And what's so beautiful in that is that you're learning, once you recognize and understand this, you're looking at your own future. You're looking and experiencing what you yourself can do. And when I say you yourself, that's probably not, it's not really correct. Because we are part of cosmic manifestation. But that greater person, this is why we study with people who know more than we. It's like when I was a little younger and spent all those years being trained by professional and talented and hugely developed musicians. They not only taught me what to do and how to do it, but there was that lotus of my own nature was in resonance with their lotus. So they brought things out of me that I couldn't have done without being around them. They brought out that potential. And that potential is what inspires us to be somebody. From the Agni Yoga book Infinity, MM instructed that the center of the chalice gathers all creative threads. The center of the chalice gathers all creative threads. Therefore, he says, each cosmic vibration resounds within the chalice. In this verse, he is not only referencing our individual chalice, but the chalices of great ones and those in space. And that quote is found in Infinity, Volume 2, paragraph 152. What is helpful to keep in mind is that our chalice preserves the most essential accumulations of the life of our soul. It is the repository of everything loved and precious. Sometimes much that has been gathered into the chalice remains concealed for entire lives. But if the community of brotherhood, if hierarchy, has been impressed upon your chalice, it will resound in both joy and yearning in all lives. I remember the first time the students, as they were walking out the front door, said, "I don't believe in the hierarchy." For me, that was almost a blasphemous statement. But now I understand it, because the community of brotherhood had not yet been impressed upon their chalice. So they had nothing in their consciousness to relate to hierarchy. So I didn't call them back. Untold treasures are accumulated in the chalice. The chalice is one for all incarnations. It is one for all incarnations. The properties of your brain are subject to physical inheritance, says the master in the book Brotherhood, but the properties of the chalice will be determined by what? Do you know? By striving, by your striving, by the labor of your hands and feet. The term labor is very interesting, and I won't get much into it, but I was part of a 6-hour marathon yesterday, Friday, of teaching, and over the course of listening to various students in the teaching, I recognized they don't know what the term labor in the Agni Yoga teaching means. Labor is not your 9-to-5 job or digging in the trenches. Labor is the work of your unfolding human soul. It's part of your life purpose. When you engage in labor, it is the process of manifesting the treasures of your chalice, of your lotus, bringing it into manifestation and putting form to it. That's labor. The chalice is built primarily of the substance of the higher self. The human soul makes itself ready to wear it as the robe of glory. When this body, the chalice, is built, the astral body disintegrates. You no longer have to function on that astral plane because it's disintegrating, because you have a chalice now. You may be engaged in, some people that are able to consciously function on the astral plane are there as servants, sacrificial serving people. They're healers, they're saviors with a little s, but they're well trained and they volunteer for a period of time. But understand that when your chalice is built, your astral body disintegrates and your soul enters into direct communication with the intuitional plane. Here lies the source of true and direct knowledge. The accumulations in your chalice can be used when your consciousness comes in contact with that treasury. Or when the hierarchy gives an impulse and connects the treasury with your brain. It's so interesting. When you engage in an activity that is in some way related to the teachings of life, and you're given an energy or insight or foresight or vision, and where did that come from? Hierarchy gives an impulse and connects the treasury with your brain. This wisdom then is used in writing important books, creating dramas, writing stories, writing poetry, in painting pictures, in composing music, and in making new discoveries and inventions. Or to better understand Agni Yoga. This treasury accumulates age after age, life after life, and through coordination, association, and synthesis, it forms the fountainhead of wisdom and knowledge, which manifests through the labor of geniuses in the world. So the richer our chalice is, the more influence it has in our life. The poorer the content of your chalice, the less influence it has in your life. As you progress on the spiritual path, you begin to have more access to this treasury. This slowly changes in your life, and a day comes when you inherit all the treasures found in your chalice. The consciousness of illumined ones is continuously fed by this treasury. I'm going to repeat this. The consciousness of illumined ones is continuously fed by this treasury. If you are one of them, or if you are familiar with the biographies of great servers, you will see how the treasury of the chalice manifested in their lives as a source of direct knowledge. Think of Helena Rourke, Nicholas Rourke, a master artist. The treasury of their chalice manifested in their lives as a source of direct knowledge, inspiration, guidance, intuitive ideas, and wisdom. It's like, I'm still thinking about this after this 6-hour marathon Friday. Somebody sent me an email and said, tell me where that information came from. I haven't heard a question like that for years and years and years. And that moment, years and years and years ago, was when a service person came into my house to fix something that wasn't working, and they saw the books of the teachings on the shelves of my bookcase and said, what is that? I said, it's the ageless wisdom. Is that like the Bible? Question. Sort of, I answered. Where's the proof? Show me in these books what it says in the Bible. Think about this. Where does new, so-called new information come from? Are we going to continue to only follow a book that is 2,000 years old? That's not keeping up with the times. So where does this information come from that seems revelationary to us? It comes from the chalice and greater chalices. We don't have to quote direct knowledge. See? The content of our chalice is very powerful because it affects many sides of our life and resonates with the chalices that are blooming in each human being, in each planetary, solar, and galactic life. The chalice is the current in the universe which radiates benevolent influences in all spheres according to the wealth of the treasury. Not only does every human being have a chalice, but also each planetary, solar, galactic life has a chalice of its own. The substance of our chalice is given to us initially by the inner presence, but it is we who build up the chalice. See, with the most advanced seeds, the most advanced permanent atom from our higher nature. We are told about the magical chalice of the Buddha in stories. We read about the experiences of Helena Rourke and her family. Through the Rourkes, we know about the chalice of the Buddha, an alms bowl, but it is now held in the ashram, as told by MM. It has his hand imprints and is most sacred. Much like the stone given to Helena Rourke, it radiates energy, see, when needed. So the planetary logos has a chalice. The petals of the chalice of the planetary logos are formed by very advanced entities. Did you know that? Formed by very advanced entities according to their petals and to their evolution. That's the chalice of the planetary logos. Think about it. The solar logos has a chalice. The petals of the chalice of the solar logos are built of entities equal to the ranks of the planetary logos. The petals of the chalice of the galactic logos are made of lives equal to the solar logoi. On each level, the building units of the petals of the chalice are progressively more advanced. The mother of the world has a chalice. The higher the chalice is, the wider the sphere of its communication. On the human level, like I was saying earlier, on the human level, not all chalices are active. Some of them only have a few petals that are open maybe halfway. Others have more petals open according to the level of their evolution. Similarly, higher chalices are in the process of being built. Human chalices, this is always an interesting statement and evokes a lot of conversation, and someday we should probably hold a class on it. But it is this, that human chalices are destroyed. It's like, oh. Hey, don't worry about it right now. Don't worry about it. We're just really busy building it. Right. So human chalices are destroyed and their treasures. Now here's the answer. The treasury in your human chalice is transferred to your spiritual triad. They're transferred to your spiritual triad. And this takes place at the fourth initiation, we are told. In comparison, the chalices of great lives in space last for immeasurable ages. All great chalices and our own chalice radiate their treasures into space on the plane where they are found. It's another seed thought. As the human consciousness advances, it aligns to such treasures and uses them in creative labor. As your human consciousness advances, as that light increases, it aligns to such treasures and uses them in your creative labor. There's that word, labor, okay. There are several ways of contact: through impression, through inspiration, through telepathy, and direct or conscious contact, even by resonance. The contact through resonance is very natural and very often takes place unconsciously. Resonance manifests as a sudden joy, an urge to do something great, a sudden vision, a sudden breakthrough. Chalices on all levels have an opportunity to resonate with higher chalices. And receive, and in that process, receive benevolent currents of energy according to their unfoldment. Every contact, again, according to the stage of the development of your chalice, can affect us physically, physical happiness and health, emotionally as joy, uplifting feelings, peace and love, mentally as creative thinking, understanding, creativity, intuitional visions, and the power of healing. That's your chalice, and I hope that you have learned something new today. Respect yourself is to respect your chalice.